Well, welcome back. I'm Lee Jenkins. Lesson 3 is a very important part of this program, and it's based on your self-image. You know, William James back in 1900 said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind." You know, understanding the self-image can mean the difference between success and failure. It can mean the difference between love and hate, or bitterness and happiness. The true understanding can rescue failing marriages, save a faltering career. In fact, it can even improve your health. Understanding your real self can mean the difference between freedom and the compulsions of conformity. You know, whether we realize it or not, we all carry with us a mental blueprint or a picture of ourselves. Now, this picture could be very vague at times. In fact, it may not be consciously recognizable at all, but it's definitely there, buried in your paradigm, in your subconscious mind. This self-image is our conception of the sort of person that we are. You know, it's been built up from our own beliefs about ourselves. And most of these beliefs have been consciously formed from our past experiences, from our successes and failures, our humiliations, triumphs, and of course, from the people around us and how they reacted to us, especially early in our childhood. This constant repetition of information is then impressed upon our subconscious mind, forming a picture of ourselves. Once this new idea or belief of ourself gets implanted into the paradigm, we start perceiving it as being true. We never question the validity of the information that we have of ourselves. In fact, we act upon it as if it was absolutely true. All your actions, your feelings, your behaviors, even your abilities are going to be consistent with this self-image. In short, you're going to act like the person you conceive yourself to be. In fact, the reality is you will not be able to act any other way than how you see yourself. You see, you can never outperform your self-image despite any conscious efforts or willpower. Anyone who conceives themselves as being a failure will automatically find a way to fail, despite of all their conscious efforts. Any person who conceives themselves as a victim of injustice will always find circumstances to back up that opinion. Your self-image is the foundation to which your entire personality, your behavior, and your results you're getting in life are built on. Your current results will always seem to verify and strengthen the self-image that you hold. Your results will simply just keep repeating themselves over and over again. It's important to understand that your self-image can be changed. No matter how young you are or how old you are, you can change your self-image and therefore change the results that you're getting. Your results are always a reflection of what's going on internally. If you have a negative or a bad image of yourself, your results are going to be a reflection of that image. Now, Maxwell Maltz made a phenomenal breakthrough, and he wrote about it in his book called Psycho-Cybernetics. Cybernetics was one of the greatest psychological discoveries of his generation. It changed the lives of millions, and understanding and applying the ideas behind cybernetics will literally change your life as well. Cybernetics is the science of control and communication in the animal and some machines. It's much like an automatic pilot in an airplane or the thermostat in your home. Understanding this concept will explain the reason why many are stuck getting the same results over and over and over again. Let's for a moment picture a typical thermostat in the home. And let's say that thermostat is set at 70 degrees. Now, we're going to assume that we're, say, in a little bit colder climate, and somebody leaves the door open or the window open, allowing that cold air in. Now, as the cold air comes in, the temperature is going to drop, causing that room, and let's say it drops down to 65. Now, that thermostat, which is a cybernetic instrument, will pick up that deviation from that set goal of 70. It's going to send a signal through the wires in the building to the furnace, and it'll kick on that furnace. And when it kicks on, what it does is that furnace will start to pump heat back into the room. And now as the temperature rises and reaches the 70-degree mark, well, guess what? It's going to send another signal back down to that furnace, and it's going to shut it down. And it's going to keep doing that all day long. It's going to keep maintaining that temperature of 70 degrees, even if you leave the door or the window open. Now, let's look at this another way. Let's take a look at this jet. Let's assume this jet is departing from New York City, has a destination of Paris, France. Now, once that jet leaves the airport and reaches a certain altitude, the pilot engages something called a cybernetic mechanism. You and I are more likely to refer to it as an automatic pilot. Now, the jet is flying across the Atlantic Ocean with the autopilot set for Paris. Now, at that point, the pilot can get up, walk around, grab a coffee, can shake hands with people, chat with the flight attendants. Why? Why can he do that? Because the pilot is no longer flying the plane. The automatic pilot is doing the job for them. That's cybernetic mechanism. Now, if that plane veers off course, let's say it hits some strong wind, turbulence, the cybernetic mechanism, the autopilot, will register that deviation from the set course of Paris. Now, what it'll do is it'll feed information to its engines, the flaps and the wings, and it'll make adjustments until the plane is brought right back on course for Paris. Now, here's the interesting part. You have an automatic pilot built right into you. It's your self-image. Your self-image operates exactly the same way as the autopilot in that jet or the thermostat in your home. Now, let's suppose your self-image is that you're overweight. You probably don't want to discuss that very much, but deep down inside you feel that you're overweight, and you're going to get to a point where you say, you know what, enough is enough. And you make a decision to lose weight. You're going on a diet, and you instantly move into action. You throw out all the high-carb foods, and you start exercising. And guess what? You start to lose weight. Why? Well, it's probably because you've been starving yourself. No bread, no sugar, no more chocolate. Why? Because that's what made you fat in the first place, right? Well, guess what? That's not what made you fat in the first place. It's the image you have of yourself that makes you fat. When a person who is overweight goes on a diet without altering the self-image, any weight loss is going to be temporary. That's why people gain and lose tons in a lifetime. You see, you lose it, but your autopilot is programmed to find whatever is lost. The self-image, your cybernetic instrument, picks up the deviation from the original set goal and immediately corrects course. The weight that was lost is found. And when you take a look at the scales, you may be consciously thinking, hooray, I lost 5 pounds. But your subconscious programming, your self-image, your autopilot, says, hey, wait a minute, that's not who I really am. So guess what? What happens? We gain the weight back. This explains the yo-yo dieting, which could potentially lead to a lot of other health issues. Now, if you're going to change your weight, you must first change the paradigm. You must change the image you hold of yourself, your self-image, your autopilot. Well, let's look at another scenario. Let's take a child in school, for example. Now, and just like the last example, the child has a self-image, their own cybernetic instrument or autopilot. Now, if that child's self-image is that of being a poor student with poor grades, well, they may believe they're not very smart and then, of course, receive report cards that reflect that poor self-image. And they're going to take that card home. And mom and dad, of course, they're not going to be very happy about it. So there's probably going to be some kind of discipline handed down, I would imagine. Now, the parent more than likely doesn't know, and the child certainly doesn't know, what is actually causing the poor grades. They probably believe the child is simply lazy. It's kind of sad if you think about it. Now, the parent has the child give up recreational activities. They're not allowed to see their friends, and they're made to study. Now, the child will start to study and study and study, and the marks go up. But the improvement is only temporary, as the child's self-image hasn't changed. So what happens? Well, they got a good grade on a test. But when the report card comes out, well, it doesn't reflect the child's self-image. The self-image picks up the deviation and causes the child's behavior to change, bringing them back to the grades that reflect the self-image that they hold of themselves. Now, why would people want to live that way? They live that way because they're not aware of what is actually happening. We need to learn to live the way we really want to live. We need to increase our awareness and further understanding the concept of self-image, cybernetics, and of course paradigms. Just like the autopilot in that jet, we have a built-in guidance system or goal-seeking device built into us by our Creator to help us achieve our goals to live. The other creatures in the world were given an autopilot that was pre-programmed, limited to simply finding food and shelter, avoiding or overcoming enemies and hazards. We, on the other hand, have been given the gift of creativity to allow us to truly live rather than simply survive. There is an image of perfection that is resonant in the center of your consciousness. The more you move in the direction of that image, the more your life will improve. There's no end to the good that you can experience as you develop a greater awareness of the perfection that lies within you. We act or fail to act not because of the will to do so, as most might believe, but because of the image that we hold of ourselves. All humans will act and feel and perform in accordance with what he or she imagines being true about themselves and their environment. William Shakespeare wrote, "This above all, to thine own self be true." The fact is that many people are not true to themselves. For the image that most people have of themselves, good, bad, or even neutral, simply depends on past successes and failures. This idea of one's self-worth is so important, so much deeper and more meaningful than a mirror. People carry this self-image into present activities and into their future plans. It's important to understand that if a person's self-image is nourished on past successes, well, it's going to be a pleasant one. But if inhibitions have blocked off the road to success and past failures clutter up the mind, well, that person's self-image is going to be poor. So let's think about you for a moment. Let me ask you, what do you think of yourself? What do you really think of yourself deep down inside? Do you like yourself? Do you expect too much of yourself? Or do you sit back passively waiting for life to come to you, for people to do things for you? Do you set reasonable goals for yourself? Goals whose accomplishments will help you feel full and alive? Or do you let other people tell you what to do, what to think, and how to behave? Do you think you're good looking? Are you secretly thinking that maybe your nose is too big, or perhaps you need to lose some weight? What you think of yourself is very important. Remember, you can never outperform your self-image. To really live life to its fullest, you must have a realistic, adequate self-image, one that you can live with. You must like and trust yourself. You must feel that you can express yourself without the fear of exposure. You must feel no need to hide your true self. You must know yourself well. Your self-image must be realistic. It's who you really are. You feel good when your self-image is intact and adequate. You feel full of confidence. You're ready to show the world what you are, who you are, and you're proud of it. Now, as you recall in previous lessons on paradigms, they were created genetically and environmentally. That environmental conditioning is programmed into your subconscious mind through the constant repetition of the information. To change the existing self-image, we must use the same method to build that new self-image. All great achievements were created twice. First in our mind, and only then in the physical plane. When you run a movie through your mind of a future event you desire to take place, it creates an emotional impression on your subconscious mind. Do this enough, and eventually, the programs of your mind will move you towards that outcome, causing you to take the necessary steps to achieving that goal. One of the best things you can do every day is take a few moments and envision the good you want to manifest. The new thoughts about yourself. See yourself in a new light as an individual like no other on this earth. Forget your past failures, bury them, and think of your successes only, no matter how few there are. Remember, you have an obligation to yourself to make your life on this earth as happy as possible. Believe in this new truth and act on it. Resolve to be your own friend, not your enemy. Now, I'm not telling you that this is going to be easy, but if you keep at it, I can assure you that you can do this, and it'll be worth it. And as I said in previous lessons, it's important that you spend time every morning and time every evening reviewing this video. Spend time through the day listening to the audio version. And mostly, I want you to review your personal power guide as many times as possible. Take your time with the questions provided and really think carefully when answering. It's important to really internalize what you're learning here. Do this each and every day, and you'll be shocked at the change that happens in your life. I'm Lee Jenkins.